Hello, and on the gaming table today, we're taking another look at a run-through of a command decision test to battle scenario that I've been looking at. Short summary here, I'm not quite happy with how this one's working out, so I may go with something different, but let's take a look at what happened here and look at maybe why I'm not quite so happy with it. So anyway, here's the setup. We've got the village with a couple of Soviet stands in there. There's also a dummy stand there somewhere. The Soviets are coming on from the top of the table here, trying to break out of encirclement, and the Germans are trying to basically close the trap. So the Germans move their first company on here, as the Soviets have a battalion approaching the village from the top of the screen. The Germans quickly assault the position up there, find it's a dummy position on the top of the hill, and things moving into like the second turn here, with some BT-7 tanks coming on in the top of the table there for the Soviets. From here, the Germans are getting ready to assault the village, trying to take it before the Soviets can get too close to the village here. Soviet infantry battalion here makes for that orchard, which is open blocking terrain. The BT-7s are really fast. You can see how far they managed to move, and they've almost flanked around the village there, which will help them in coming turns. Here the Germans going in to get into position to attack the two stands of real Soviets. The Soviets there have been shooting at them from the village, so they've been identified now. One of the stands got taken out, an opportunity fire by a machine gun that held back there at the base of the hill, and the other one got driven back. Then the third company of the Germans arrives as they start to set up a little bit of a defense on the hill and get ready to take the village there. A little bit of shooting from the Germans actually drove back a couple of Soviet stands there from the orchard, so a little bit of luck there. And now the Germans are moving in to kind of capture the village as best they can. And the Soviet moves will come up next. Also, the battalion company there for the Germans coming on with a 7.5 centimeter infantry gun, Pak 36, and an 8 centimeter mortar as well. A second full battalion of Soviets at the back there, and a platoon of T-26 tanks, a company of T-26 tanks at the back as the BT-7s flank the village, take up positions on the hill. So basically at this stage, the Germans have essentially captured the village. There's one Soviet stand there, but it won't hold them up too long. In the orchards here, there's a firefight going on, and now the tanks have gotten into this position on the flank. The BT-7s there can start shooting up the German infantry as best they can, even though they're suppressed. The white markers there showing that they're suppressed. And at this stage, the Germans can't root them out of their position on that hill. So those BT-7s there are in a fairly good position to be able to do a lot of shooting at the German infantry. The suppression will mean they're less effective, but they'll still be able to cause some casualties probably. So the Germans here are trying to make sure they don't lose their position on the hill, are going to move their 7.5 centimeter infantry gun to the top. The yellow markers there showing companies that have been pinned by fire, and one of the German medium machine guns got taken out in the earlier fire phase as well. So here the infantry gun moving to the top of the hill, Germans moving into the village, and they'll push back that final Soviet stand that's pinned there. The mortars there, the 8 centimeter mortar, self-observing its fire, managing to drive back a couple of stands. You can see the Soviet casualties in the back left of the picture there. T-26 tanks moving up to join their BT-7 fellows. Quite a lot of Soviet tanks in this one. I gave them an extra company of tanks to see how this would play out. I actually thought the Soviet tanks might get shot up earlier by the Germans, but maybe the BT-7s were too much early on. We'll see anyway how it plays out here. So anyway, the last Soviet platoon there gets driven out of the village, the one with the yellow marker, it's pinned. It failed morale and fell back again. And here the Germans starting to set up a little bit of a defense, or trying to get things into position where they can prevent the Soviet infantry from taking the village, but also try and do something about those tanks that are essentially on the hill covering the flank of the village. More mortar fire going on there. They're just harassing and trying to do damage to those Soviet platoons in the open. Managing to drive one or two back every now and then. And here come the T-26s. Was looking at where there could have been opportunity fire from the infantry gun there, but then later on I realized the infantry gun doesn't have AP ammunition, so it can't actually do anything to the Soviet tanks. So the Soviets here have decided to use the BT-7s as a shield and basically try and escape around behind them over the hill and away to freedom. So the Soviet objective here is not actually to take the village, it's actually to get away. So basically, if they can get off the bottom of the screen, then they're all good and well. This was where I was looking at the opportunity fire on that T-26 and then figured out, yeah, no AP ammunition on that gun, so it can't actually do anything to them. Here, the BT-7s shooting up into the German infantry that's in the village here. They can't do a lot. They're kind of suppressed, but every now and then they might get a lucky hit and take off a stand. So they're also making the Germans take morale checks because of being armor close and also shooting. It's going to make them take morale checks. Here, the Germans planning their next moves. They've brought their Pak-36, as you can see, right at the bottom of the screen here, into a position where it can shoot. Also, they've got some tanks of their own come on, a Panzer II and two Panzer 38Ts have come on here. So here, harassing fire again from the mortars. The Germans send an infantry platoon and a couple of tanks forward here, trying to kind of disrupt the infantry at the same time as engage those BT-7s. So they're taking a little bit of a risk by moving in the open, but again, those Soviet tanks are still suppressed there. Here, the T-26s make a run for it. They become suppressed because they get too close to the infantry. In a moment, there'll be a little opportunity fire from the Pak-36. It manages to force back one of the Soviet T-26s there. It runs away to the right of the screen. So here, the Germans, basically, if they can try and get rid of the tanks here, the BT-7s at least, then they might be able to do a lot of damage to the infantry as it tries to run away over the hill or behind the hill here. But at the moment, with so many tanks facing them, they can't really do much about that. So yeah, this is kind of where the battle doesn't get so satisfying for me. It's a bit of a static shooting match here. Not really what I was intending with this particular scenario, so it might be better to go back to kind of a more traditional attack-defense scenario. There, the T-26s failed morale and forced back shaken. So one fled off the board, the other ones have moved away. They're basically out of action now. Infantry, again, getting hit by the infantry gun and the mortars, taking the odd casualty and getting some stands forced back and pinned. Machine gun moves over to join the anti-tank gun there to try and prevent the Soviet infantry from running away. Here's the Soviet infantry moving now. And so, yeah, this is basically just an end run by the Soviets to try and get away here. The German tanks have moved up into a position where they can try and get some more effective shooting in here, risking a little bit by moving forward because the Soviets will get opportunity fire. Germans not having too much luck either. They fired lots of shots at the BT-7s. We're getting a lot of misses. The Panzer II there managing to drive off one of the BT-7s with a hit. But yeah, overall, not much happening. There's a lot of anti-armor shots going on, but not a lot of effect. Not many hits going on here. Okay, more prep fire coming in here. Eliminates the limber that was towing a 45mm anti-tank gun for the Soviets. The infantry making a dash for it here. The machine guns would shoot at them a little bit, but yeah, not a lot they could do against that much infantry. And then, yeah, after this shooting phase, I decided I would just wrap things up here. And in this shooting phase, all of a sudden, the anti-armor fire took effect. The two BT-7s got taken out by hits from the Panzer II and one of the Panzer 38Ts. In response, in the same fire phase, the Panzer 38Ts both got hit. One got forced back and another one got destroyed. So all of a sudden, the armor was getting taken out left, right, and center here. Made some morale checks just to wrap up things here, but overall, it looks like in this situation the Soviets would largely get away. But yeah, as I said, not too happy with how the scenario worked out here, so I may just go back and do some Yelnya-inspired battles, which are basically kind of very outnumbered Germans suffering under Soviet attacks and maybe staging some local counterattacks to try and restore the line. So I might try one of those kind of scenarios as a more traditional attack-defense scenario later on. But anyway, hope you found that a little bit interesting. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again real soon.